Welcome to Conversational Currency. This is the fastest growing platform which focuses on the value and importance of social skills for business in a digital era, told through the lens of today's business and thought leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, current and aspiring entrepreneurs, communication is a superpower. And I want you to imagine a timeline of your life. And if you were able to say the right words in the right moment to every man or woman in a business setting, imagine the quality of life and what you'd be able to experience. Now, in today's broadcast, I'm Shadi Eleazer, by the way, but that is secondary to the point, the topic that we're going to discuss today, which is the art of sales and a new approach to selling. Sales is as old as Father Time himself, and we're going to cover a new approach with our special guest today. Now, Jon, sales is important, and some people would say sales is life. Can you please share with our audience why you feel that sales is an elite skill set?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on. And yes, to answer your question, sales, as you mentioned, sales is communication, right? Business is communication, and the ability to communicate well with another human, whether in a business setting, a sales setting, or any other setting is a key fundamental skill set to just be successful in life, to be successful anywhere with family, with friends, anywhere else. It's heightened in a business setting because everybody is vulnerable, right? Whenever there's an exchange of products, an exchange of goods, there's an opportunity for you to have your character tested on either side of the equation, on either the buying or the selling side. And so in a situation like that, in any kind of heightened relationship between two individuals, whether it be a personal relationship or a business relationship, and the closer that relationship is, the more opportunity there is for communication to go wrong. And so whether it's transactional, whether it's quick, whether you and I are just, exchanging goods or services, they might be cheap or they might be momentary, or if that relationship is going to continue on and on. What I want with my customers, and even if it is in a transactional setting, is I want, even if it's a momentary relationship, I want you to come away feeling not that you've won a challenge between the two of us, not that you've won a competition, but that that we together have solved the problem, that you have come away with value for money. And so that is a shift, sadly, in a lot of people's thinkings, but it is also an opportunity for people who are out there selling or offering any kind of business service, which we all are to some degree or another. At least our companies are, if we're employees, to come away with a new relationship and a differentiated relationship where you and I are champions of each other. You are my champion, that you came away, whether or not you did business with me, with a positive impression of me and my brand, my company, or whatever it is I'm representing.
Excellent point of view. Now, Jon, I've come to realize in my life journey that there's two types of sales professionals. One would be the kid who had the lemonade stand and sold candy at recess and had the baseball cards collection. That would be one group. The other would be the individual who has the talent, but has some sort of built-in bias or reservation towards selling. In your life's journey, when did you realize that sales would be a part of your life and something that you would explore?
Yeah, early on, I would say my first introduction to sales towards being an entrepreneur in that sense was pretty young, was probably 14, 15 years old, just thinking through, how could you make money on the side, selling candy bars at lunch, right? Trading this for that. So that matured into an actual job when I was a senior in high school, selling locally, just door to door, different products. Then in college, took a break, was in carpentry and doing construction then, but then really got right back into sales right after college. So did commercial and investment real estate, for 4 years. My boxing coach and I started a real estate brokerage immediately after school. And then took a brief diversion for 4 years, teaching and coaching. So I taught logic and history at a private school in the Southeast and coached football and track. But even then, I was hustling during the summer times, coaching camps and doing all kinds of stuff during the summer to just make more money. Because as you can imagine, a teacher is not really bringing in the stacks. So anyhow, was doing that. But then, and really at that point in my life, my great passion was serving my country. So really at that point, what I wanted to do was go off. And we were at war at the time and wanted to go off and do my bit. Unfortunately, wound up having some back surgeries, which prevented me from doing so. And so really looking at my plan B, I was thinking, well, what is my next passion? What do I want to do? And when you're looking at different career fields in business, there's a quick decision that you have to make, which is, am I comfortable just working for my defined salary, or do I want the more work that I put in to mean the more money that I'm going to make? And in sales, that opportunity exists, where the harder you work, the more hours you put in, the more aggressive you are about teaching yourself, the more money you can make. And so that's the direction that I wanted to go, and I knew that fit my skill set and my interest best.
Well, you had a early start. And for those of you who are tuning in to the live version or the replay, the sales bug will hit you at some point, whether you have a talent and you need to express it to the world. And for some of you, it's the way that it's always been. I was raised in a family that from day one, grandma had a business. So if grandma looks at me and says, "What are you doing with yourself?" and I'm only 5 or 6, that makes you start to think of how can I create opportunities and to look at the gaps where kids may be playing with certain toys and maybe they want a similar product line, or some of the gaps overall where providing a new product or service to the marketplace is just the way that it's always been. Now, when we talk about sales, some people may say that a great salesperson is born, not made. Others feel that you can develop it like a muscle. Where do you stand on the spectrum when it comes to sales as a skill set development vehicle?
Yeah. So it's that nature versus nurture conversation, right? For salespeople. Yeah, and I would say I fall pretty squarely on the nurture side. I do think that, if you are not in some ways wired, if it's not in your DNA to be in sales, at least as a career field, right? I'm talking about like account executives, sales reps, people who have a quota and carry that, which entrepreneurs need to have a piece of that, right? Entrepreneurs need to know, it's on me, and they need to feel comfortable with that weight, that responsibility. So while I will say that maybe I'll edit my answer a little bit, say it's a bit of a combo, right? You got to have that DNA to actually be to want to be in sales and to be able to maintain a skill set in sales. And why I fall mostly on the nurture side is I think that as long as there's that willingness to not give up, as long as there's that willingness to go out there and make money, and there's some sort of enjoyment in what I see is a baseline for sales is, using my career field, using my skill set as a vehicle to do good for others, right? And so if that's your intention, then I think everything else can be built, right? And I can teach you sales, you can learn sales, I can show you how to do it so it's not such a terrible task, right? Because sales can also be just so disheartening and such an onerous activity where people just wind up hating it or really getting burnt out. Oftentimes I see that as a result of just poor leadership. Whoever's mentoring or coaching or managing that person is just not doing an effective job. Because sales is also, it can be so frustrating. It can be so mysterious until you unlock some of the keys to really making it so much easier. When people stop seeing you as a salesperson and they start seeing you as a method by which they will get educated on a product and make an effective decision, that's where people really cross that divide from being pushed off or being kept at arm's length and feeling like a salesperson to going on the other side where they now feel like I have a friend. Like this customer is my customer, but this customer trusts me, or if it's going great, I text this customer, like this customer knows me, we know each other, and we will talk after this transaction, whether or not they buy from me. And that's what I teach people to do. That's the difference.
And let's dive into this a bit deeper. You've covered some topics. The light bulb is going off on my end. So we talk about, let's say, knowing your customer. That's where we start to go into relationships. And integrity, Jon, is one of the key pillars to not only relationships, but also your unique brand of sales training and coaching. So can you tell us the role that integrity plays when it comes to sales in your unique process?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great question. And it is one of the distinctions. While I feel like, it's a tough thing in sales, because immediately when somebody gets into sales, on your first sales call, I remember as a young rep, I remember being in real estate, and I see it happen. The team that I coach, I oversee 14 sales reps and a team of a little bit over 20 sales team members overall. I am clear in my expectations with them. It's like, we will never ever lie to a customer. We will never bend the truth. We will never do that. You've been lied to before, right? You know what it's like to feel betrayed. And you know what it's like to feel resentment towards another human or an institution, right? And you know how long it might take also for somebody to earn your trust. And if somebody does earn your trust, truly earns your trust, that's the person you're going to rely on, right? And you're going to respect that person. You will see them as more than just another acquaintance, whether or not you know each other personally, right? If you trust another person, their recommendation or their word, it's an important point to get to for a salesperson. Vice versa, if I create resentment in you through a negotiation process or through a sales process, if I make you promises that I don't follow up on, or that you then learn were just simply untrue, how long will you hold resentment in your heart, right? Like, how long do people hold resentment? It could be forever, right? It could be years. Like, you might never forget that person's name. And so the way I teach sales to sales reps is, I want to appeal to two things straight out of the gate, which, I want you to hit your quota. I want you to work hard for me. I want you to work hard for my company. I want you to do well. But there's two things that I really want you to focus on, and that's your own self-interest. And I want you to focus on whether or not this person ever buys from me. I want them to be my champion. And so your self-interest, and I want you to create champions. I don't want you to be focused on just hitting your quota. I don't want you, because that drives a different set of behavior. If all I'm focused on is getting you to sign a contract, then my behavior starts to reorient towards, if that's what I'm fixated on, my body and my behaviors are going to follow my mind. I'm going to be tempted to do and say those things that just get you to sign that contract. But if I can build you into a champion and I can learn your value system, I can learn what is important to you and why does making this decision benefit your life. And if it really does, I will have gone through that process with you. I will have earned that trust, even if it's just an hour-long conversation, or even if we're only talking for 30 minutes. Because what will happen on your side is you will immediately notice the difference of how I'm treating you. You won't feel like I'm working an angle, grinding an axe, or trying to manipulate you, because of the things that I say, the things that I do, the questions that I ask, and the way that I ask them. And that's all the nuts and bolts. Those are all the tactics that I teach everybody how to do. And there's some real differences in how we do that. But it all starts with that different viewpoint of, hey, I'm a salesman and I want to go make a ton of money, or I want to hit my quota, or I want to be better than this person, to I want to build you into a champion and I want to do well for myself. Because if you don't buy from me today, you might buy from me later on. And if I have built you into a champion, you'll refer people to come see me. And so either way, I'm going to win.
From your vantage point of helping sales professionals do better and earn higher, what would you say are some of the attributes of a champion, and how does integrity sales help them to reach those goals?
Yeah, great question. So I would say, again, if I'm going to one of the stories early on, one of the things that before I could kind of unlock some of the bits and pieces of how this understanding has come together for me, just over the years of experience, one of my early frustrations in sales is really truly wanting something better for my customers, giving them my honest opinion, but for them not seeing me as an honest person. And wondering why that was. Why do they still see me as just a salesman? Why do they still see me as this generic person who's just out to take advantage of them, or just kind of, pull my own bias and just use them as a means to get that? So thinking through that and considering, how am I gonna then, when I moved into a leadership position, how am I gonna coach these reps? To answer your question, is really a combination of different tactics and techniques that came together to be like, how are we going to do this thing? And if I'm going to hire good people, if I'm going to train people who are good individuals to then go out and do something, or again, appeal to their self-interest, say like, hey, you could be achieving so much more, but only if you're looking at this in the right way. And that so much more that you could be achieving is going to be immediate right now, and it's going to be long-term. So you don't have to sacrifice short-term success for long-term gains. You can have it both. And by just a couple different tweaks, by communicating to people in a different way, by communicating them with not only a different level of respect and appreciation towards them, but by just being more organized, more prepared, and really just doing the harder work, removing some of the confusion of kind of what's happening right now. By getting people some of that experience and some of that training early on, I saw that we could accomplish both. We could give them more success right now. Customers would continue to interact with them. They could get higher close ratio today. And then the accounts that weren't closing, because we know straight out of the gate, especially in my business in software sales, that even a great rep is only going to close 30% of their opportunities for a whole variety of reasons that aren't even their fault. Right? That 7 out of 10 deals are just going to go away. So if we acknowledge that as a fact straight out of the gate and prepare for that, plan for that, then again, it's going to drive a different mindset. It's going to drive a different set of behaviors. And then when we have the techniques associated with that, what we see is reps closing deals a lot more faster, customers that are happier, and they're making more money.
Now, in your journey, you've taken on the role of coaching, and of course, you have your reps that you drive to greatness. And of course, when you're working with people one-on-one, there's only so much time that you have in a day, and that particular effort cannot scale. So what you've done is you've packaged your knowledge and your method of integrity sales into a training or course offerings. Can you please tell us what integrity sales is all about and who it's for?
Yeah, absolutely. So integrity sales, the course it's designed to distill my knowledge down. So it's a guided course by me. So I take entrepreneurs from product ideation. So from the idea of, hey, I want to get started, I want to be entrepreneurial, or I have the entrepreneurial spirit, but I'm just not sure how to get started. So we start at that point, looking at, hey, how do you analyze your different ideas, your passions, to think what would be a good idea and what would not be a good idea to launch as a product, and whether that's a great passion of somebody's, or it's just, hey, I just want to get started and I want to get started the right way. I don't necessarily have a product passion, but I just want to get going. That's completely appropriate as well. Getting that, doing a market segmentation, figuring out a go-to-market strategy, how to test a product before you even put a lot of money or time into it, before you put too much investment into it, to find out, is it going to work in the marketplace? And then from that point, really building everything else out from there, the entire infrastructure that a person or an entrepreneur or even a team would need in order to successfully launch. And so that includes, how do you design a buyer journey? How do you segment your market into an ideal customer persona and profile, to then putting together a lead generation strategy to effectively attract interest and then follow up with those leads, and then all the way through sales to finally closing them and then caring for those customers afterwards. So the idea around this was, again, how do I help more people, and how do I do that at a greater scale? And so the course has been put together, and the person who really this is intended for is the entrepreneur, the freelancer, the hustler, anyone who really, whether experienced or inexperienced. The youngest person that I'm coaching is in their early 20s. The oldest person that I've been coaching is in their late 40s, and helping them really get going. I'm mentoring a business owner down in Silicon Valley who's got a software startup, all the way to a freelancer selling energy healing down in Southern California. So just a wide spectrum of people. And the universal truths, thankfully with sales, the universal truths that apply to software sales also apply to insurance sales, and apply to another woman that I helped who is a software engineer, and she wants to sell her consulting services. So it's a very service-based, one-on-one type of thing, but she felt very uncomfortable in the sales process. She was a very nice person. She wasn't an alpha personality. And so she felt very uncomfortable when it came time to actually asking for money or asking for people to actually close. So I showed her a way that she could do that where she didn't have to close, and it worked great for her. And so the spectrum is pretty broad as long as you're interacting in some direct way with your customers, be that either over email or direct face-to-face or video chat, then this would be a fit for you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, sales is a elite tier skill set. We are all selling something. And as you know, I travel the globe and have 5 to 15 conversations per day with like-minded winners who are providing value in their space. I've took a sneak peek behind the curtains of what Jon has to offer with integrity sales, and let me tell you, I've seen it all. I do cold calls for fun, and I was raised in a business where I had to call people much to my chagrin. And what Jon offers is a comprehensive breakdown on how to analyze your current sales process, whether it is non-existent or it exists in some form. It takes you down a very detailed path for you to get comfortable with sales, to overcome some of the mental hurdles that you may face, and finally, some of the tips, tools, and exercises that you can utilize in order to sell faster, sell more effectively, overcome objections, and finally, get the sale. So with that being said, Jon, where can my audience go to connect with the latest and greatest integrity sales training?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, so my website is jtdion.com. So it's jtdion.com. I'm also on Twitter and LinkedIn, and soon to be on Instagram. And so launching there. My website gives a good breakdown of not only the course, but who I am and who the intended audience is. And now through July 15th, which is the official course launch date, the course is 50% off. And so if this sounds like something that you're curious about or you want to look into, feel free to take advantage of those resources. My contact information is also there. So if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me directly.
Now, let's make this even more interesting here. If you take action on the course, which is available at jtdion.com, that is Julio Tango Dion.com, I will also throw in my LinkedIn magnetic profile training, and you will get unlimited email support from me based on my review of the course and what I've seen and what is to come from the integrity sales training. So you get Jon's unique, detailed years of experience broken down into the integrity sales course. You also receive LinkedIn training. As you know, I've traveled the world teaching LinkedIn, teaching business owners, and I'm a Microsoft partner who has acquired LinkedIn. So you can't lose in this case. You have unlimited email support, you have Jon support, and you have at your fingertips, if you go to jtdion.com, the opportunity to learn and master one of the most valuable skill sets on planet Earth. Now, any closing thoughts or remarks that you have to share with the audience, Jon?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, yeah, I'll leave you with one. There's a great quote that I love from the great coach John Wooden, UCLA championship coach, which is activity is only valuable if it leads to achievement, and that's really what we want to accomplish here. So that's what we do. We measure achievement, and that's everything that you'll get. I know that you're interested in, and that I am as well, is helping people achieve. And if anybody does happen to buy the course and find it's not for them, that's fine. We'll be reasonable with you, and I want this to lead to success for everyone. So there's a money back guarantee as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been introduced to sales from a unique perspective, starting from identifying when the sales bug may hit you. So whether you have a child who is starting to sell candy at school, to your own journey where you may have got into sales much later in life and you wanted to understand how to get over that anxiety. We've also gone into the sales process itself in terms of what makes a champion and the differences between tactical sales and being able to sell with integrity, which is one of the chief pillars to building relationships with your customers, so that you step away from I just need to sell in the moment to looking out for the best interests of those that you serve and support. Now, for those of you who are looking to take the step forward and take additional action, you now have at jtdion.com the opportunity to walk through the process step by step, no matter where you may be on the timeline. You may be just starting, you may be experienced. You may have built many businesses and you want to start again with the new approaches that exist online and how to interact with people in person. So in this particular conversation, you have gained a full circle view of what sales is and how you can leverage those abilities. So on behalf of Jon, I'm Shadid, and you've been tuning into Conversational Currency. We are the fastest growing platform which focuses on the value and importance of social skills for business in a digital era, told through the lens of today's business and thought leaders. You could have been anywhere in the world, but guess what? You were here with us. And for that, we appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in.